The following is a presentation of IMG, America's home for college sports. Live from Brother Jimmy's on Easton Avenue in New Brunswick, this is the Kyle Flood Show. Your chance to talk Rutgers football with the head coach of the Scarlet Knights.
Rutgers with 9 on the line. They're coming and blocked. They got it. He couldn't go. Sideline 20, 10. Adios, compadres.
To be a part of the show, call toll-free 855-FLOOD-44. That's 855-FLOOD-44.
We are live at Brother Jimmy's in downtown New Brunswick for this week's edition of the Kyle Flood Show, final of the regular season. Chris Carlin alongside Rutgers head coach Kyle Flood. Good to see you.
Great to be back here after Thanksgiving, back at Brother Jimmy's in front of some really quality fans that came here tonight.
Our diehard fans, some of our guys who are here with us each and every week doing a terrific job as Rutgers prepares for the final regular season senior night, or final regular season game, I should say, senior night this Saturday night, 7:30 at High Point Solution Stadium as Rutgers host the University of South Florida. Scarlet Knights pursuing their 6th win of the year, which would make them bowl eligible for the 8th time in 9 years. We want you to be a part of the show tonight, so please give us a call at 855-FLOOD-44. That's 855-356-6344. You can also tweet us your questions at our football. First thing I did this morning, Coach, when I was getting ready for this game, for this show tonight, went to look at the forecast and wanted to see what it was going to be like on Saturday night. A low of 25 degrees and a 20% chance of precipitation.
And I think if the website I was on is correct, it looks like the precipitation percentages are going down a little bit each day. So I know a couple days ago it was 50-50 that it was going to be maybe snow, maybe wet snow, or maybe some rain. But now we're down to 20%. But 25 degrees. That's a beautiful evening in Piscataway.
You will take that. You will absolutely take that. Well, let's get into some of the things we've got to talk about over the next hours. Again, give us a telephone call at 855-356-6344. Rutgers coming off the 28-17 loss up at Connecticut the other day. And Chase Dodd starting at quarterback. And, Coach, in watching Chase through the course of the day, he certainly had some drops. There's no doubt about it. But for a guy that had not started in a full year and a half, he didn't look like he had a whole lot of rust on him. He certainly looked like he made some pretty good throws.
He did, and I thought Chase played a solid game, and he gave us some opportunities, and unfortunately had one touchdown called back for a penalty. Had a couple passes dropped on him, but I think all in all it was a good start for him and a solid start and something we can build on going into this week.
And he will get the start again this Saturday night at High Point Solution Stadium. And fittingly enough, on senior night, we're going to talk about a lot of the seniors and some of the guys that have made an impact on this program, some of the guys that you hear about a lot, some of the guys you may not hear about but have been as equally as big of a part of the program in terms of getting guys ready to play each and every week, and some of the unsung heroes of this team as well. So just continuing with Chase for a few moments, when you evaluate him as a whole based off of that, was it what you expected? Just give me a sense of exactly what you saw after going back and looking at the tape.
I think, the first thing you look at is the operation, and I thought he did a good job operating the offense and running the huddles, being in and out, and being efficient. So that was good. There certainly was no rust there. We were not in peril of delay game penalties and things like that. So I thought operationally he did a nice job. I thought his decision-making was good. Yeah, I thought, nobody's ever 100%, but I thought by whole and whole he was effective in terms of trying to locate the ball to the right people, and then at times pulling it down a little bit. There was one ball he threw across his body that he completed that I thought was a little bit, maybe a little bit more risky than I would have liked, but for the most part, I thought he made good decisions. He protected the ball. He triggered the ball on time. We did not get sacked in the game, so that's always a good indicator that the ball is getting triggered on time and, for the most part, to the right people. Now,
he ran quite a bit out of the shotgun the other day and some out of the pistol as well, some things that we hadn't seen before. With Chase running it as opposed to Gary, did that kind of change things up in terms of what you wanted to do formationally?
I think if Gary was the quarterback, you would have seen a lot of similar types of things. And some of the things we did in the run game are things we've been working on all year with both quarterbacks. And this seemed like the right week to see if we could utilize it. And we had some good runs doing it. We had if there were poor decisions, I think on the day there probably were two poor decisions Chase had in the run game, where he could have kept the ball one time and he could have given it one time that I think would have produced some better results for us. But those are things we'll get better at, and I think those are things that we have to utilize and be as creative as we need to be in the run game to make sure that we can be effective.
And, Ray and I were up in the booth calling the game, and frankly, seeing some of the read option with Chase in those spots. For a quarterback that hasn't run it, at least here very often, and the team hasn't run it a whole lot, give me a sense of how difficult that is for a quarterback in terms of making those decisions.
I think it's more and more common for these players to do it in high school.
Yeah.
And I think there are very...
Is it something Chase did in high school? I don't know.
I got to believe that in their spread offensive system that they had, there certainly were shotgun handoffs and at some point some type of read aspect to it,
right.
Down there in South Carolina, because it's almost a part of every offense these days. And I think something that can be valuable, because even if you only do it 5 times a game, it's a way to gain a numbers advantage. And
you would think so, certainly, that they ran it, considering that Chase had Marcus Lattimore behind him at that high school, at Burns High School down in South Carolina. Now, speaking of running the football, Paul James, where do we stand here with his health, and what did he do?
Chase did Paul James did a little bit of a workout today with us. He did not take any reps in any of the team periods, but he did run around a little bit. Tomorrow he'll be inserted into some of those team periods. I think right now he's 50-50. I might personally be a little bit more optimistic than that, but I think the medical people are still would still tell you 50-50.
Now, in getting the running game going, Paul had some positive yards. I think at one very positive runs. 1 point, maybe, if memory serves, he was around 9 for 45, something like that. Give me a sense of what Paul did effectively and what, without him, you weren't able to do.
Paul, I think when he left the game, was averaging 4.4 or 4.5 yards a carry, and really was on his way to having a nice game. And I think what Paul has probably done more effectively than any of the other running backs this season for us is making sure that the first tackler doesn't get him down. Mm-hmm. And it sounds simple, but it's not all the time. And he was able to make some really positive runs and win some one-on-ones in space that we weren't able to win as the game went on. So we certainly would love to have Paul back and be able to do that. But we need the other running backs to be able to do that. And if they can't, then, like I said, we got to be a little bit creative in terms of how we run the ball.
Our telephone number, 855-FLOOD44. That's 855-356-6344. Another guy I want to ask you about, Tyler Croft. We've seen a lot more of him the last couple of weeks. We certainly saw him quite a bit early in the season. 4 catches the other night. First of all, how much of a matchup problem is he really creating for other teams at this point?
I think he's certainly somebody that when the game plan begins to get installed, whether it's Sunday or Monday, whatever that team's schedule is, he's one of the first players they're talking about. And he's leading our team in receptions right now with 37, averaging 12.9 on each reception, and has done a nice job of winning his one-on-ones. And he was a wide receiver in high school. That's what he was. And we projected him to grow into a tight end, and that's what he's done. And now that he's become an effective blocker for us, has really started to blossom. And I think if you look at in the NFL, those are the tight ends that really create the most stress on the defense. They're the ones that can both be effective in the run game, but are athletic and run well enough to be a major matchup issue for those inside linebackers.
Now, you were here for the second half of his career. How does he compare to Clark Harris? Is he similar?
I think it's a very fair comparison.
Okay.
I really do. I think their body type is very similar. I was here for 2 years with Clark and remember him when he was in high school at Southern Regional playing for Chuck Donahue. Mm-hmm. I think they're very similar. I think both effective blockers, but really both guys that as they were growing up and coming through high school were probably more receivers than anything else, and that's kind of how they developed their skill set.
You've got every coach. You've got every high school coach in your head. You are amazing. I'll tell you what.
Well, I'm fortunate. A lot of these gentlemen have stayed there for a long time. Coach Donahue has done a great job down there at Southern Regional, and still continues to this day.
Well, you're seeing Tyler really come around, and I'll tell you what. Not even come around. You're really seeing him make a huge impact now, and seeing that growth of the younger players that we always talk about, and you start to see the production value, and I think that's where a lot of us, and I'll include myself in that, get caught up in that You know, I've always been a numbers guy, and you see the production, you understand where it is, but we don't necessarily see the growth to get to this point. So take me inside a guy like that and where his growth last year, the year before that, moving forward to become this valuable of a target has been.
You know, I think for somebody like Tyler, and every position is a little bit different, but certainly for a tight end who has never really been counted on to block on the line of scrimmage, when you get to college and that's what you've been recruited to do, there's a learning process that takes place, and it's hard. It's tough because they're having a lot more contact in each practice than they've ever had in their careers. And for Tyler to come through that his redshirt year, and then last year begin to play just a little bit in spots. Everybody remembers the big catch at Arkansas,
Yep.
but he kind of at the beginnings of what his career would be. You know, those first 2 years are tough because it's a lot of hard work in the weight room. It's a lot of hard work on the scout team, and it's a learning an entire skill set that you didn't do in high school.
And you have 18 or 19 guys this year that are playing and playing big roles on this team in their first 2 years. So how does the learning curve kind of change there for those guys that you're counting on very early?
I think it's, I could use Darius Hamilton probably as the best example. You know,
Okay.
Last year as a true freshman, he was not a starter, but played probably 20 to 30 plays in a game, depending on what the game was, and did a nice job for us. And what that really did was two things for him. For him personally, it exposed what he needed to get better at, that he had to get bigger and stronger and more physical to be able to play at the level he wanted to play at, that he expects himself to play at. But he also gained very valuable experience of seeing the different schemes and the different blocking schemes and the types of offensive linemen and fullbacks that he was going to have to play against on a week-to-week basis. And I think it really motivated him. And Darius had a tremendous offseason, came back probably 15 pounds bigger than he was as a freshman, and has really had an excellent year for us and is going to be one of the leaders of our football team as we go forward. And he's only been here for 3 semesters when you look at it that way. He was here for the fall, the spring, and now the fall. So in that short amount of time, he's played a lot of football, and now in his last 2 years will really be one of the leaders of this football program.
And with that being the case, I mean, defensive tackle is not one of those positions where you might see the huge numbers. You don't necessarily know the impact. But again, with Darius, he had 2.5 sacks last week. I think he had 1.5 tackle for loss this past week, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe that's correct.
But again, that's a guy where you're really starting to see the numbers show up. It doesn't necessarily mean he hasn't been productive, but it's really starting to come to the forefront.
Sure, 9 TFLs on the year, 3.5 sacks, and that's a guy who plays predominantly on first and second down. You know, that's his role, and because he plays so much on first and second down, we try to rest him on third down to keep him ready. You know, eventually he's going to be a first, second, third down player for us, and I don't think that's too far in the future.
855-FLOOD-44. That's 855-356-6344. Before we get to our first tweet of the night, I got a couple of more from the game the other day. Ruhan Peel. We saw him out there early on defense. I don't know how many series he played in the first half, maybe 2 or 3 it seemed like, and then got out there on offense, had the touchdown pass called back, as you said. Certainly didn't look rusty in terms of being a wide receiver because the ball was coming his way quite a bit. Evaluate Ruhan and how the plan was kind of executed in terms of how you were going to handle him.
Yeah, Ruhan's been great through this process, and he wants to do whatever he can do to help our football team be 1-0. But he doesn't make any bones about it how much he loves playing receiver.
Yeah.
He's not bashful about saying it, and he loves playing receiver, and he's a very good one, and he was a very good one before this, and certainly productive when he got his opportunities last Saturday, and he'll be back on offense again for us this week, and he's going to have a role on defense. He's not going to start on defense this week as of today, but he's going to have a significant role, and we need him on the field right now because we just don't have the numbers in the secondary, and Ruhan is so competitive. It really makes up at times for whatever lack of skill set he may have from not having the individual periods in training camp and throughout the season.
Can you count on him defensively now to be able to do a lot of different things? Obviously, you must be able to if you're starting him as you did before and not necessarily this week. But in playing both ways, sometimes you would think that there would be, if you're going to do that, all right, we're only going to use them in these kind of situations. For a guy like that, maybe only man-to-man, something like that.
When we first did it, that was the plan, and that was how we did it. We really shrunk the world that he lived in.
Right.
But then, as of last week, because he was going to start, he really needed to understand the package, and he did. And he worked very hard to do that, and very hard with our offensive coaches to make sure he understood what he needed to do on offense. So he worked really hard last week to put himself in a position to do both of those. And I just think because of our numbers on defense right now, a guy like Nadir Barnwell's not 100%. A guy like DeLon Stevens is not 100%. We need him there. He needs to be available to us. It won't be to start the game, but it could be one twisted ankle away from playing the rest of the game. So, he's going to work equally as hard this week to make sure he's ready to do all of it.
When we first talked about doing this a few weeks back and you first decided you were going to move him over to the defensive side, I asked you what makes him the prime candidate to do it. And you talked about his hips and the fact that he can kind of turn pretty quickly. And I went out of my way to kind of pay attention to that this past week. That's not something that can be taught, is it?
I mean, it's like anything else. You can improve on it, but the better you start, the higher your ceiling is.
Right.
And Ruhan certainly has a good degree of natural ability. And I would tell you this: for all his physical attributes, which help him do these things, the single most important factor is his competitiveness. He is such a competitor, and one of the most competitive players in our program. And I've told this story a number of times. The reason we offered him a scholarship in the first place was in our high school camp. He was the most competitive player in the camp. We had over 900 kids that year at the camp. And he's always been like that. He loves to play, but more importantly, he loves to compete.
855-FLOOD-44. Also, if you're in attendance here at Brother Jimmy's tonight, good crowd on hand. Make sure you come on up front and ask your question for Coach Flood as Rutgers prepares for South Florida this coming Saturday night. A lot to get into, including the seniors, 21 of them playing in their final game at High Point Solution Stadium Saturday night. We're going to take our first break, come back, stay with us. We got a lot to do over the next 45 minutes. This is the Kyle Flood Show.
Excuse me, is that your Diet Pepsi?
Sofia Vergara. Hi, yeah, this is my Diet Pepsi. I love Diet Pepsi.
Do you love every sip?
Nothing is better than drinking a refreshing Diet Pepsi and just reveling in its crisp, delicious taste.
Well, you know what they say. If you love something, let it go. And if it comes back, it was meant to be.
So I should set this Diet Pepsi free and wait for it to come back. Then it'll be more delicious than ever. Would you hold my Diet Pepsi for me?
I'd love to.
Thank you. What happens now?
Go, get out of here. It can't come back to you if you're standing next to it.
Thanks, Sophia. I'll wait for you, Diet Pepsi.
The only thing better than an ice-cold Diet Pepsi is a free ice-cold Diet Pepsi.
Love every sip at dietpepsi.com.
This is the Rutgers IMG Sports Network.
Get a fresh spin on just about everything at Hess Express.
Hess Express, your one-stop express shop. Morning, noon, and night, Hess Express has you covered with more great meals, more great deals, more of everything you're looking for, all served up good and fast. That's what makes Hess Express, Hess Express. So come on in for a fresh spin on just about everything.
At Hess Express.
What's up, Rutgers? Y'all ready for some football? Brother Jimmy's in New Brunswick is your headquarters for Scarlet Knight football, as well as your home for the Jets, Giants, and all your favorite NFL teams. With over 30 HD TVs, we serve up all the NFL action on Sunday and Monday nights, with amazing food and drink specials all game long. So come on down to Brother Jimmy's and put some South in your mouth. For reservations and event information, visit us at BrotherJimmy's.com. Brother Jimmy's Barbecue, located at 5 Easton Avenue, New Brunswick, New Jersey. See y'all soon.
Welcome back to Brother Jimmy's in downtown New Brunswick. This is the Kyle Flood Show. Rutgers in South Florida senior night this week as Rutgers gets set to face USF. They will come in under their first-year head coach, Willie Taggart. Rutgers, this will be the 9th meeting between Rutgers and South Florida. Scarlet Knights have won 6 of the previous 8. Now, a couple of more guys I wanted to ask you about that had big roles the other day. And some of them are playing in their final game, but we'll get to more about that in a moment. JT Tartikoff threw the touchdown pass on the fake field goal. I can't remember the last time in one season, and I know it was similar. I don't know how close it was, but it almost looked like the exact same play. If it wasn't that you ran at Louisville, and JT was happy because he got a little bit more closer to throwing the touchdown. Actually got the touchdown, but was it the same play? Because you never see those trick plays run more than once in a year.
It was a similar concept. It was not the identical play, but it was a little bit of a similar concept. And JT threw a nice ball, but Tyler bailed him out a little bit too with a great catch in the end zone.
Yeah, I could not believe Tyler was able to take that away from the defensive back. I mean, hey, look, he's not a quarterback, but he certainly did the job.
He did a nice job, and JT's the perfect guy to have there too, because he's a cool customer, and as I told him in practice, hey, if we do this now, it's 4th down. Make sure you put the ball in a place where Tyler can go get it, because you got a big target out there who can jump. He's got great hands, and it was a little bit behind him, but it was thrown in the general vicinity. But
JT's also a guy that you've had an awful lot of faith in here the last couple of years, because this is not the first time.
It's one of those positions that nobody ever talks about until something goes wrong. And positions like long snapper, position like holder, those are things that I think the casual fan may take for granted. But as the head football coach, those guys are invaluable. Every year during training camp, you're looking at the entire team to figure out who are going to be the guys who are going to do that, because it's not just a matter of being good at what they do. They have to have the strongest nerves on your football team, because when they need to operate at the end of the game, that's when it's going to count the most.
They got to sit. They got to think about it. They got to know that it could potentially be coming. Then they got to identify if it's going to be there. And I don't know about you. The more I think about something, the more likely I am to screw it up.
Well,
so I give him a lot of credit from that standpoint. I don't think that's you. I think that's me.
Well, and it's certainly not JT. That I can tell you. And he was fired up, and I told him during the week that we were going to run it. So be ready, and he was ready right out the gate.
The other guy too, and the other guy that comes to mind is Robert Jones, and he's playing in his final game. 46 consecutive starts as your long snapper. Had one the other day that bounced, and I honestly couldn't remember another one in his career that bounced. He has been just, again, we talked about the unsung heroes. That guy is an unsung hero, because that's a thankless job. Folks probably don't even realize, especially on punts, you get absolutely clobbered on the inside there after you snap the ball, and then you have to get downfield. More often than not, he's been involved in, at least if he's not making the tackle, he's very close to making the tackle on punts. Take me inside a guy like Robert Jones and what he's meant to your program.
I've told this story. It's a quick story, but it's a great story about Rob Jones's recruitment. I'm recruiting. I'm the local recruiter for Union County at this point, and Kenny Trimmer from Caldwell High School calls me, and I've known Coach Trimmer for a long time, and he says, Kyle, I think we've got somebody here that can help you. He wants to come to Rutgers. He's already been accepted. I said, great, Coach. What position does he play? He said, he's a long snapper. I said, oh, tremendous. We're always looking for a guy who can long snap, because you want to have a pool of players to choose from. And Rob Jones comes in, and he's a little shorter than we probably would have liked, and at the time was not as appealing to the eye as he is now. He's done a good job of changing his body over the course of 4 years in our program, in our weight program. And from the very first day, you could tell he was determined not just to be on the team, but to be the starter. And he wins that job, and over time has become really one of the most consistent performers in the last 9 years. And I'll speak about those years because those have been the years I've been here. That Rob Jones is as productive a player at what he does as anybody who's been in our program.
And it's the kind of guy that you're not going to notice, unfortunately, unless something goes wrong. But nothing's ever really gone wrong, knock on wood.
Knock on wood. And you say, though, he bounced the one last week and there was a penalty on the defense, and the next one, bang, right back
Perfect.
there. No problem. So and Rob was as upset about the one that wasn't good as anybody else out there. He's got very high expectations for himself. He works tremendously hard at what he does. And And I'm sure going forward he's going to have an opportunity to continue doing it.
Well, I was going to ask you that because we've seen a couple of guys from Rutgers go into the NFL and have success doing it. Clark Harris is still doing it, right?
Yep, Clark Harris still doing it.
Ryan Neal, who was an outstanding defensive end but also a terrific long snapper, also did it, and he had a lengthy career in the NFL doing that. Is that something that you can see for him as a possibility?
I think it's absolutely a possibility, and I think like anything else, he's going to have an opportunity to do that and compete, and then he's going to have to win the job because it's such a specialized skill that 32 NFL teams, there's only 32 people that do it.
All right, we're going to get to one of your Twitter questions right now. You can tweet us at @rfootball. Coach, let's see here. This one comes from, let's see here, Coach K. I don't think it's Mike Krzyzewski, but it's Coach K. Coach, good luck this Saturday night. How are Josh Klecko and Nick Internicola this fall, two guys who are redshirting for you?
Sure, two more members of the youth movement here at Rutgers, and I think they're making good progress. You know, Josh is as a nose guard, which is the position we recruited him for, and Nick as a rush defensive end. And I think both of those guys are getting a lot of work with Coach Panagos in the individual periods and the specialist periods before practice, and then they're serving on our scout teams right now. And when you're fortunate enough to be 1-0 in a game like we are, and you get some extra practices, it only gets better for those guys.
With a guy like Josh, we certainly know the pedigree is there with his father, Joe. Does he come into the program with some knowledge, with I guess a little bit of an advantage just in terms of certainly having a father like that who's done it at an all-time level, in my estimation, a Hall of Fame level. That's a whole other discussion we could have. But
I would agree with that.
Yeah,
I grew up watching him.
Oh, absolutely. I'm with you. He was a Hall of Fame defensive lineman, no question, and did it at a few different spots. But the knowledge factor that he can bestow, do you see that in Josh?
I think he probably has a little bit more general football knowledge than the average high school football player because he's been around it so much in his life. To me, what really jumps out with Josh as a young player is his ability to use his hands. Mm-hmm. And I think in talking to Joe during the recruiting process, that is something that he really stressed with Josh from a very early age. And I don't think Josh played before high school. Mm-hmm. But I think Joe had worked with him all through high school, and Josh has excellent technique with his hands, and that is an upper level skill. That is not something that most high school football players come to college with a good understanding of.
Well, I look at his older brother and Joe's older son, Dan Klecko, and he was a disruptive force when he played at Temple. He was incredibly difficult to block. Not a guy with tremendous size, but certainly knew what the heck he was doing and turned it into a pretty good NFL career too.
No, I went to see Dan Klecko at Marlboro High School. Was the high school he went to, and I remember I was looking him right in the eye, and we were recruiting him in 1AA football at the time, and then Temple offered him a scholarship, and he ended up going to Temple. And a couple of years later, when I got to Rutgers, he had just got finished playing at Temple, and he was unblockable.
Yeah,
he was unblockable. It didn't matter who they were playing in the league; he was an unblockable player. And Josh is his own person. We don't compare him to Dan. We didn't recruit him in comparison to Dan. But I think in our system, Josh is going to have an opportunity to really build his career in a similar type fashion.
855-FLOOD-44 is our telephone number. It is senior night this week, so let's get into some of these guys. I do want to ask you about some in particular. And these are some of the guys that you don't necessarily hear their names a whole lot, but they've had an impact on the program, and they're guys that you have a lot invested in. So I'll just throw out a couple, and you either give me an anecdote, give me something that jumps out about them in particular. A guy like an offensive line, a guy that you worked with a lot, Hugh Ahern, not somebody that got a lot of playing time, but somebody that certainly had to do a lot in terms of preparing the team for the game that week.
Sure, and every team is made up of some. You've got some guys that play a lot, and they become kind of the faces of your program, and then there's some unsung heroes, guys like J.T. Tartikoff and Rob Jones, and then you've got other guys that are really the meat and potatoes of your team, and the guys that do most of their work on the scout teams. And Hugh Ahern did that for us for a couple of years. Then he wasn't able to continue playing, and now has become a student coach for us, and has really been a big help to our offensive linemen through the year in terms of helping get practice ready, helping during practice, helping in the meetings. He's done a nice job for us. He's a great kid.
How about Tyler Bellia? Now, that was a guy that started at Wagner, was a quarterback, and then made the decision to transfer.
Yep, Tyler was, or I think originally Clarkstown South High School, and then Paramus High School, if I remember correctly, and then went to Wagner as a quarterback. Came here as a quarterback, and at one point his career said, Coach, I think I can help you guys at tight end. And
he came to you and said that.
I think that's the case. That's the case. And then we moved him there, and gave him an opportunity, and he's playing for us on special teams right now, and helping us on special teams, and is in the depth at tight end, and is somebody who in practice at times is really flashing good stuff.
Here's a guy that I love to watch play on special teams, because another guy that's always in the middle of it in terms of making the tackle, Nick DePaula.
And Nick DePaula is the younger brother of everybody. Andrew DePaula.
Yep.
Who another guy who has had a couple,
right?
a little bit of a long snapping career in the NFL, in and out of training camps and practice squads and things like that. Has been down to Tampa a few times. But Nick is a great kid, a super high effort, high intangible kind of guy. Somebody that's very valuable to the program, because he does a lot of the little things on special teams that you need people to do, and he does them with so much enthusiasm and so much effort. He's one of the best kickoff guys we have on our team.
All right, I'm looking at some of the other names. One guy that's been here just this year, but we haven't talked about him a whole lot, and that's a good thing, because I think he's been pretty consistent. Nick Marsh, transferring from Utah, and really solidified the punting position.
Nick has been an excellent addition for us, and we had our struggles last year in that department, and Nick has not only been able to steady our punting results and do a nice job and drop some inside the 20, but he's also our kickoff guy, and has done a nice job on kickoff throughout the season.
And one other guy that transferred got hurt earlier in the year, but maybe was able to help in terms of some knowledge. Another guy in Lou Toller, who's a graduate student. We know he broke his arm against Louisville a few weeks back, but came from Western Michigan and was on the field immediately, and certainly a valuable guy to have back there to bestow that knowledge.
Lou's a great young man, and it was unfortunate what happened, because he was playing a lot of football for us at the time, and was only gonna continue to play a lot for us, and was really the older presence at that position that we hoped he would be. And he has continued to stay with the program, and he's coaching those younger players, and he's helping them in the meetings. He's helping them prepare, and that really speaks to the quality of the person that Lou is. And I'll be really happy for him when he gets healthy, and hopefully he can get ready for his pro day.
Tweet us your questions at RFootball. We're going to get into some of the other seniors in just a little bit. We will also preview Rutgers and South Florida. The Bulls playing better defensively these days, no doubt, and gave UCF everything they could handle in their rivalry game last Saturday night. They're just 2-9 in the season, but they have played better as the season has gone along. Should be a good one at High Point Solution Stadium at 7:30 this week. We're going to take a quick timeout. Just a reminder, you're listening to WCTC in New Brunswick, and you're watching on ScarletKnights.com. This is the Kyle Flood Show.
You may already know that AT&T is the nation's fastest 4G LTE network. And now independent research has confirmed that AT&T 4G LTE is also the most reliable. Whether you're connecting with family or getting the job done, you want a wireless network you can count on. AT&T, the nation's fastest and now most reliable 4G LTE network. Rethink possible. AT&T reminds you to never text and drive. It can wait.
Speed claim based on national carriers' average 4G LTE download speeds. Reliability claim based on data transfer completion rates on nationwide 4G LTE networks. 4G LTE not available everywhere.
The chalkboard. Sweeps, screens. Every play is drawn up and studied. When you can visualize a play, you can execute a play. The same is true in business. The more visibility you have in your supply chain, the better your business performs. That's why UPS lets you track what comes in and what goes out. Logistics is our game. See how we can help yours at thenewlogistics.com. UPS, official logistics partner of the NCAA.
This is the Rutgers IMG Sports Network.
Like so many soldiers returning home from combat, adjusting to life as a civilian hasn't been easy for retired Army Staff Sergeant Ben Dellinger.
The hardest part was getting out. You don't lose your friends, but basically all those people get taken away from you all at once. It felt like my life was over at times. Everything I thought I was totally different.
American heroes like Ben face many challenges when they return home. That's why, for more than 90 years, Bank of America has partnered with military organizations to support jobs, housing, and critical needs of veterans and their families. We're also committed to recruiting and hiring veterans, reservists, and military spouses. And for Ben, we partnered with Military Warrior Support Foundation to award his family a mortgage-free home.
This is something I never expected to happen, and I'm truly grateful to each and every person involved.
To find out more about Bank of America's efforts, visit bankofamerica.com/military support. 2013 Bank of America Corporation. Bank of America, N.A. member FDIC.
We are back. It is the Kyle Flood Show, Rutgers in South Florida this coming Saturday night. It is senior night. Got some guys from our Riot Squad who are here each and every week, Scott and company. They are ready to go, and you know they're going to be – Scott, you're not going to go shirtless on Saturday night in the cold, are you?
Come on now, Scott. A little bit of courage now.
Scott, if you do it, I'll do it.
I will not do it.
We have the window open. I don't know that Ray could. Ray was not happy we had the window open the other day, and he certainly let us know about it. But nonetheless,
Ray's a big guy, but he's a quarterback at heart.
Exactly right. And you know, nobody gets more frustrated with the weather than Ray. There is no doubt.
I thought Parcells liked him because he could play in the Northeast.
Exactly. Back then he could. He was telling a story the other day about one time playing in Chicago when it was so cold that the pads actually froze onto their bodies and they had to go into the shower with the pads and jerseys on to get them off.
That's cold.
That is cold. All right, Coach, some other guys here that are seniors that are playing in their final game. Two in particular. Well, I'll start with this one. And this guy, I think, has really been a little on the unsung side, too, because the numbers don't necessarily jump out. He's been banged up a bit during his career. That's Paul Carazola.
Paul is a guy who's played a lot of football here over his career. He is a great young man, a very consistent performer, very high intangible guy, and somebody we're fortunate to have on our team. And you know, certainly Tyler's had a big year this year, but the season's not over yet, and I think Paul is going to be heard before it's over.
Two guys on the offensive line that have played an awful lot of football for you, Andre Civil and Antoine Lowry.
Right, two guys who were converted defensive linemen.
Yep.
And, you know, Antoine's been hampered a little bit this year with the ankles. Hasn't played as much, was a first-team all-conference player last year, and a guy came here from Columbus High School down in Florida, down in Dade County. And Andre's a local guy from Brooklyn, from Sheepshead Bay, Coach Snyder. And another defensive lineman and a guy who's come here and worked really hard and unfortunately hasn't been able to stay healthy all the time, but is a little bit healthier now and valuable guys that, you know, came here to play defense, got changed to offense, and have both been contributors in wins.
You know, these are guys that, first of all, the fact that they had to shift from defensive line to offensive line, there's some more glory, if you will, on the defensive line than there is on the offensive line. When guys are asked to make that kind of a switch and they do it and then they start to get comfortable in their new position, for guys like that, how long did it take to really get in there and accept what they're doing now and really embrace it?
I think there's always a transition period. I think when they do it, generally it's because of opportunity. So I think they embrace it right away, but the skill set is so much different. You know, on defense, you can do your job and make some plays independent of what's going on around you. On the offensive line, you can't. You have to work as a unit or it doesn't work. So I think that takes usually a spring practice or a training camp to be able to do that and then really start to move your learning curve forward.
Okay, a couple other guys. And we've spoken quite a bit about this guy because he's been playing an awful lot of football for you lately. That's Dallas Hendrickson.
Dallas has done a good job. And much like Chase, we're very fortunate to have a senior in that role as our backup center at the time and stepped in to be the starting center. And first and foremost, he's got his hand on the ball every play. So he has allowed us to operate and has done a good job with the operation, but has also been an effective blocker for us, both in the run game and in pass protection, and super high intangible player, high motor guy, fun to coach, fun to be around, and one of the few people that I get to be around on a daily basis that grew up on a farm. So I enjoy being around Dallas. I remember on his official visit, him explaining all the different cuts of beef and steak and what that actually meant. It was the first time anybody ever explained it to me. So,
really?
Oh, I mean, we didn't have a lot of cows in Queens. So where I grew up, you know, we weren't exposed to the types of things that Dallas was exposed to. And I had him in my office one time when I was still the offensive line coach. I said, hey, tell me where. Give me your address, and we did the Google Earth on his address at home, and it was a house which, for somebody who grew up in the city, was in the middle of nowhere. So I said, well, let me show you something funny. And then we Google Earth my parents' house in Queens, which is one house next to another house next to another house. And he couldn't believe that people live like that.
And you couldn't believe people live like that.
And there's no doubt. But it's great. It's one of the great things about college football is we get a chance to be around a lot of players and a lot of coaches who grew up in different settings and all working towards the same goal. And Dallas is a great kid, and it's been really a pleasure to have a chance to coach him.
And what's he been studying here, of course? Agriculture.
No doubt.
As you would expect him to. Two guys, first of all, from, I think, an underrated part of the state of Rutgers, and that's the state of Delaware, Jamal and Jamil Morrell, and the impact. I mean, they're two captains. Obviously, they've been a big part of what you've done on the defensive side of the ball, especially the last couple of years. Tell me about these two young men.
We may have, after Deron Harmon and Desmond Wynn, and then the Morrell brothers, and now Andre Patton, we may have to claim Delaware as another county in New Jersey, and we'll just call it part of the state of New Jersey at this point. But those two guys have been such a big part of our program, and a little bit different careers. Jamil came here as a defensive lineman and has evolved into being a really quality defensive player for us and a high motor guy, and both of them are captains. Jamal, a little bit of a different road, where he came here as a wide receiver, and I remember Jamal his freshman year getting injured, and when he came back from the injury, he was still on the scout team, and we were playing South Florida, and the two defensive ends were George Selvey and JPE.
Yeah, JPP. Yeah, Jason Pierre-Paul.
Pierre-Paul. Yep. And I needed somebody who was tall and long and who could run to simulate what those guys did. And he came down during individual periods essentially just to rush the passer on Kevin Haslam and Anthony Davis. And I didn't know if he'd be any good at it. I just thought he would be the right body type and could really run. And he actually had some really good natural pass rushing skills. And I remember saying to Greg at the time, you might want to look at this guy on defense. He's done a really nice job. And sure enough, he ended up moving over to linebacker and has been a great player for us on defense the last couple of years. And somebody, again, when his career is over here at Rutgers, is going to have an opportunity to play at the next level.
Oh, that's a great story. And those guys were incredibly difficult to block. Anthony Davis, as we remember, and Kevin Haslam both did pretty good jobs against him that night.
Had some great battles.
Terrific battles, no doubt, especially with Selvey. I think JPP was only in South Florida 1 year.
Correct.
But I do remember that was a night game, and it was pretty cold. But those two guys did an outstanding job against those two.
It was, you look back on it, you don't realize it at the time, but you've got two tackles playing for us that played in the NFL, and then two defensive ends for them that both played in the NFL, and it makes for a great game.
We've got our first question tonight from our man Scott in person. With the salute.
I got a question for you, Scott.
What's up?
I got a question for you.
Shoot.
You come every week.
I do.
All right, and you eat every week.
I do.
What is it that you order every week?
It is the marble brisket, side of mashed potatoes, cornbread, and pickles. You can't beat it.
He's on top of that.
I'll tell you what, there was no hesitation.
Yeah, that rolled off the tongue.
There's nothing I like better, Scott, than full-speed decisions. It's the only way to make them. All right, fire away. What do we got?
All right, well, obviously, huge game. Bowl berth on the line. It's senior night. But most importantly, it's Kyle Flood bobblehead night. So you ready for that?
Well, I'll tell you what. I have seen the bobblehead. It's a thinner version of myself than what you're looking at right now, so I appreciate that from whoever designed it. I think my kids are excited about it. I'm not sure exactly how excited I am about it.
All right, on to my real question. Last week after PJ went down, we saw a pretty even split between Savon and Goodwin. They were kind of evenly matched. I think Goodwin had a little bit of a better yards per carry. Do you think if PJ can't go this week, we'll see more Goodwin, or will it be another running back by committee?
I think I don't know if I'm ready to say that yet. I think we got to get through the practice week and evaluate that and kind of see where all the running backs are. My gut tells me we're going to see PJ early in the game. Whether that means he starts or not, I'm not sure yet. And then after that, I think we'll probably make those decisions a little bit later in the week.
Great, thanks.
Good
luck.
If you sound optimistic about PJ, certainly. If you do have him, do you anticipate it being a situation where you're going to have to limit him a little bit?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I think the thing PJ has shown is he can affect the game in a very positive way. And I think if the medical staff tells me that he's ready to go and he shows me in practice that he's ready to go, we're going to turn him loose and let him go.
All right, more of your questions coming up. We're going to take a timeout. More to do. We're here until 8:30 as Rutgers prepares for South Florida coming up this Saturday night on senior night at High Point Solution Stadium. Thanks for joining us at Brother Jimmy's in downtown New Brunswick, everybody. This is the Kyle Flood Show.
Excuse me, is that your Diet Pepsi?
Sophia Vergara. Yeah, this is my Diet Pepsi. I love Diet Pepsi.
Do you love every sip?
Nothing is better than drinking a refreshing Diet Pepsi and just reveling in its crisp, delicious taste.
Well, you know what they say. If you love something, let it go. And if it comes back, it was meant to be.
So I should set this Diet Pepsi free and wait for it to come back. Then it'll be more delicious than ever. Would you hold my Diet Pepsi for me?
I'd love to.
Thank you. What happens now?
Go, get out of here. It can't come back to you if you're standing next to it.
Thanks, Sophia. I'll wait for you, Diet Pepsi.
The only thing better than an ice-cold Diet Pepsi is a free ice-cold Diet Pepsi.
Love every sip at dietpepsi.com.
This is the Rutgers IMG Sports Network.
Rutgers University's Center for Management Development is an international leader in delivering innovative educational solutions to strengthen the business skills of our clients. We have a focus on today's professional with contemporary programs to meet the demands of an ever-changing business environment. Find your program today by visiting our website, cmd.rutgers.edu, and upon registering, use the special 10% discount code RURadio or call us directly at 732-640-1853.
Between the kid kicking the back of your seat and the kid who didn't mow your lawn. Between running to gate Z247 and running errands. Between the guy hogging the armrest and a pet that shreds them. There is a loyalty program that still treats you like a big shot. Because you, friend, are in exactly the right spot. The parking spot. The airport service where you get a free day for every 7 paid. Learn more at theparkingspot.com. We have airport parking covered.
Back at Brother Jimmy's in downtown New Brunswick. Rutgers in South Florida this Saturday night. Chilly weather, as we said, expected to be about 25 degrees. I've thrown a lot of names at you. I want to throw one or two more. And this one in particular, this kid just has, week in and week out, in one way or another, just impresses. Early in the year, first time he's ever returned a kickoff, he takes it back the distance for a touchdown. This past week, coughed up a fumble on a kickoff. What does he do later? He comes back and makes a couple of huge plays down the sideline, makes one just absolutely terrific catch as well in the process. Karan Pratt.
Karan is a guy who really was an unsung player for us the last couple of years, and he I guess if you're counting this season, 3 seasons ago, he's Mohamed Sanu's backup. Mm-hmm. Well, Mohamed Sanu, breaks the record for receptions in a season, so obviously your playing time is going to be a little bit limited. And last year, with guys like Mark Harrison and Timmy Wright and Brandon Coleman having the year he did, he played but maybe didn't get the ball thrown his way as much, but makes a huge catch in the Arkansas game. Anytime Karan is called upon, he seems to make the play, and that is probably his strongest quality. And now you look at him this year; he's got 29 receptions. He's averaging over 16 yards a reception, which is second on the team. He does so many things in special teams, and the example you brought up is as good as any, where he's not our starting kick returner, but our starting kick returner goes down, and the next ball goes to him, and it ends up in the end zone. So, he's been a great punt block guy. He's been on the front line of the kickoff return in the past. He's been a flyer. We were struggling at flyer a little bit this year. He volunteers to do it. He's the first one down covering the punts. So, I extremely grateful for having a guy like Karan Pratt on our football team, and I think in the eyes, again, you talk a little bit about what will happen at the next level. I think he's a guy that has opened a lot of eyes this year.
Another guy that's done a lot of different things for your team, and this year has been on the defensive side, Jeremy Deering. And it's amazing, when I go back each week and I'm writing in some notes on my charts, you look at what guys have done against a particular team in years past. And with Jeremy, it's so spread out because One team, all right, he rushed for 112 yards against this team. Another team, wow, he had 6 catches in that game. Kick return for a touchdown in that game. So from that standpoint, he's been an incredibly unique player.
Jeremy's had an eclectic career, to use an interesting word to describe him. And he came here and he was a wide receiver, but really his biggest role as a freshman was being a kickoff return guy and being Mohamed Sanu's backup in the wild card, in the Wildcat. So he did that for a year. And then the next year we made him the tailback. So he played tailback for us. And then the following year he went back to receiver, and then we had a need in the secondary, and he was willing to move to safety. A player that probably would have played both ways last year had he not had a high ankle sprain, because we were starting to cross-train him early in the season to play on third down on defense while having a role on offense. And then after the ankle injury, it was tough to kind of get that done. But again, a very selfless player, a very productive player in a lot of different ways. And I think somebody that through the year is getting better and better in the position he's in now, which is safety.
Was he, memory fails me at the moment, was he one of those players that was listed as athlete when you recruited him?
There's no doubt. He's from the Tampa area.
Right.
And he's a guy that was a high school quarterback who ran the ball quite a bit.
And I also, if memory serves, it was a big enough deal when Jeremy decided to come here. He was a big enough athlete in Tampa that it was actually carried on television when he made his decision.
It was a very big deal down there, much like when Janarian Grant committed to Rutgers. Janarian was the player of the year down there in his area as well. So no doubt Jeremy was an important guy in recruiting and has been an important guy in the last 4 years.
And a guy that you have spoken very highly of this year and his progress over the last 2 years in particular, and that's Marcus Thompson at defensive end, Coach.
Yeah, Marcus is a fun guy to talk about because he's got such a passion for playing defense and running to the football, and he is like a Tasmanian devil. Like when he walks in the room, there's just energy gets exuded from him. And when he got here, we tried him at linebacker. That wasn't quite the right place. He had a cup of coffee at fullback, and that wasn't quite the right place. And then we moved to D-line, and he found a home. And now he's kind of in that hybrid defensive line linebacker position, and is really one of the guys that's the heart and soul of our defense.
I hope I'm not speaking out of school, but I was at practice last week, and you noticed something that Marcus did off to the side with a couple of his friends, and you asked him to come up in front of the team. And he's a pretty talented dancer.
Marcus is an excellent dancer. I did not realize that, but he did something called the robot, and I'm working on my version of it, but that'll be later this spring, I think.
Well, and then they had one of the younger guys, I think it was Quanzell Lambert, come up too.
Apparently Quanzell's the master. We did not know that at the time. But
I don't know. Marcus did a pretty good job on it. There was no doubt about that. But, you get that camaraderie and that atmosphere with those guys. And Marcus is definitely one of those guys that helps foster that really positive atmosphere among the team.
No doubt. One of the senior leaders of our football team, without a doubt.
And you hear this about people a lot. He's one of those guys that has a smile on his face more often than not.
He's got a smile, and when you're around him, you can't help but smile.
When you think of this senior class as a whole, you've had them as the head coach for 2 years, but you've obviously been here for their entire career. What are the things that really jump out?
It's one of the it'll be one of the groups that has allowed us to really push this program in the right direction, and I think that's critical. Every recruiting class or every group that comes through, because by the time they're seniors, you have some guys that recruited together, some guys that played as freshmen, some guys that redshirted. So it's not quite the recruiting class that they came in with. But they all look back, and they're all very proud of whatever their 3, 4, and 5 year cumulative totals are. And this group's got some work to do still. And I know they don't think they're done, and I certainly don't think they're done. And we're looking forward to one more opportunity, we know, to go out in High Point Solutions Stadium and be 1-0 this Saturday night.
Let's get to one phone call. Dave is in San Francisco, and he is with us on the Kyle Flood Show. Dave, how are you? Dave, are you with us? Dave, going once. Well, we have a little problem with him. We'll take a timeout. Hopefully we can get Dave back up and aboard and get him in before the end of the show.
Sounds good.
All right, stay with us. One more break, couple of more minutes as Rutgers prepares for USF this week. This is the Kyle Flood Show.
You may already know that AT&T is the nation's fastest 4G LTE network. And now independent research has confirmed that AT&T 4G LTE is also the most reliable. Whether you're connecting with family or getting the job done, you want a wireless network you can count on. AT&T, the nation's fastest and now most reliable 4G LTE network. Rethink possible. AT&T reminds you to never text and drive. It can wait.
Speed claim based on national carriers' average 4G LTE download speeds. Reliability claim based on data transfer completion rates on nationwide 4G LTE networks. 4G LTE not available everywhere.
The chalkboard. Sweeps, screens. Every play is drawn up and studied. When you can visualize a play, you can execute a play. The same is true in business. The more visibility you have in your supply chain, the better your business performs. That's why UPS lets you track what comes in and what goes out. Logistics is our game. See how we can help yours at thenewlogistics.com. UPS, official logistics partner of the NCAA.
This is the Rutgers IMG Sports Network.
No matter what you earned your undergraduate degree in, an MBA from Rutgers Business School will help you build your brand and get you the skills you need to succeed in a tough job market. Rutgers MBA graduates get jobs. U.S. News & World Report recently ranked Rutgers among the top 20 business schools in job placement. With convenient locations in Newark, New Brunswick, Jersey City, and Morristown, Rutgers Business School offers flexible and convenient options to help you pursue your MBA full or part-time. Become part of Rutgers' passionate network of more than 30,000 business school alumni. Think MBA, think Rutgers MBA.
Oh, what up, Rutgers? Hey, guess what? I bet you didn't know you're about to have 3 different kinds of barbecue sauce all over that sweet, sticky mug of yours. Also, bet you didn't know, down south in North Carolina, we can actually make some of the best barbecue you've ever had in your ding-dong life. So come on down to Brother Jimmy's Barbecue and put some South in your mouth. Brother Jimmy's Barbecue, located at 5 Easton Avenue, New Brunswick, New Jersey. Or check us out at brotherjimmys.com. See y'all real soon.
All right, Dave in San Francisco is back with us. Let's get his phone call up. Hopefully we've got our technical issues straightened out. Dave, are you with us?
Great. Yes, I am. Can
How
you hear
are
me?
you? Yes, sir.
We got
Fire
you,
away.
Dave.
Perfect. Great. Hi, Chris. Hi, Coach. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Dave.
Awesome. Really quick question. I know we've got the Bulls coming into town. How do you feel the defense matches up with the Bulls offense?
I think the defense has had a good practice week. And, yeah, I've said this in a couple interviews this week that Coach Taggart has been very determined to put his stamp on this football program. And Coach Taggart is a Jim Harbaugh disciple. And you see a lot of the formations and the shifts and the running schemes that you see from your very own San Francisco 49ers or Stanford before them or Western Kentucky or San Diego, wherever you want to look on his resume to see where he put his system in. And I think Coach Taggart has done a good job of staying the course this year and really creating an identity for that football team. Now, with that being said, the first goal every week for us on defense is to stop the run. And we put a lot of effort into doing that. And, for all our struggles this season, we've been able to be efficient versus 21, 12, 22 personnel in the run game. And we need to continue to do that, and then we need to play better on third down. So I'm not into predicting how we'll do or what the matchups are and how we match up, but I do know this. I don't think there'll be any secrets out there. South Florida is coming here to run the football, and we're going to show up Saturday night to stop the run.
Yeah, and really another follow-up to that. I know that I've noticed in a couple games that Darius Hamilton is taken out on third downs. Is he going to have an opportunity to be in there on third downs? He's probably one of our best defensive linemen.
Darius is having an excellent season for us. What we've done is we're playing him on first and second down exclusively without a rotation, and then third down is his chance to really catch breath and gives us a chance to get Marcus Thompson, Quanzell Lambert, and David Maluski on the field to rush the passer.
Coach, we're out of time for this week, but big night on Saturday night. You want them in there early, and you want them in there loud.
We need them there early. We need them there loud. They will be the 12th man. And again, we've got a team in South Florida that I know a rowdy crowd can be disruptive to on their offense, and I know they'll be there ready to go.
Senior night. We will see you at High Point Solution Stadium Saturday night, Coach.
I'm looking forward to it.
All right, this has been another edition of the Kyle Flood Show. Thanks so much for joining us this week. Thanks to Dave Pulaski, Paul Schrager, and Colin Osborne. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Saturday night, 7:30, Rutgers and USF at High Point Solution Stadium. This has been the Kyle Flood Show.
You've been listening to The Kyle Flood Show, live from Brother Jimmy's in New Brunswick. The executive producers of the Rutgers IMG Sports Network are George Pine and Ben Sutton. Associate producers Joe Potter, Chris Ferris, and John Willie. Network manager Brad Law. I'm staff announcer Carl Shannon. Special thanks to Rutgers Athletic Director Julie Herman and the staff and management of flagship station WCTC.